Hi there. My name's Paul Morrison. I'm currently the Director of Planning Transformation in the Department for Levelling Up Housing and Communities. I have spent all of my life working in my professional life, working in the civil service, and I've done a whole range of different jobs, both in the operational delivery profession and also in policy and programme delivery. A lot of that has been spent in Home Office. I've run large bits of the immigration system. And I've done that both, as I say, in policy roles and in delivery leadership. I actually started my career as a case working administrative officer in a bit of the Home Office, then the Criminal Injuries Compensation Authority, and all of that background and history has given me a particular perspective on the issue I want to talk about here, which is how it's really important when we're thinking about delivering services to the public that we are really connecting policy and operations. And there are lots of reasons for that, and I will describe them in quite a high level way, but try and illustrate it with some stories of how I've experienced that as I've done the things I've done in my career. So the first thing to say is, when you think about the services we provide the public and the challenges we're facing, the real world doesn't divide itself into policy and operations. Members of the public want a service. The service will be provided as a consequence of lots of different things and lots of different people delivering what they need to deliver, which is both policy and operations. So that's where I start from. It is all of that has to be in the right place if we're going to deliver the services the public want. The second thing I would then say is that in order for that to happen, there has to be a really strong connection between the different professions, and that is largely about the relationships between people. And I can speak from experience that there is very often a view that kind of the policy people do all the thinking and the operational people do all the doing. But actually, I think we both have to do both. And there is no point in us thinking to ourselves that the policy people sometimes, I get the sense of, I've been a policy professional, and when I go and do an operational job, it's almost like they think I've checked my brain in at the door, and then I have no view, and I shouldn't be trying to influence policy, and I should leave well enough alone and know my place and get on and delivering stuff. But then vice versa, when I'm in a policy environment, I need to stop taking that attitude, and I need to start listening to the people at the front line, because they both have the skills and understanding of how you turn policy into delivery, but also, and here's a really important thing, they will understand the truth out there of how the public are experiencing our services. So I think it's really important that we make this connection. And I'll illustrate it by some of my experiences where I've seen it work really, really well. So an example I would give you is when I was responsible for running the operation of the process by people who had come to the country on student visas and needed to extend their stay. I was responsible for the operational components of that. And what myself and my colleagues could see was that system was being abused, and there were large numbers of people who were claiming to be students who weren't really students. They were coming here actually to work, and not only that, there were all these colleges that weren't real colleges. They were pretending to be colleges so that people could say they were going to somewhere, and they would sponsor their arrival into the country. And we knew that, and we could see that because it was us who was going out there and inspecting the colleges. It was us who were looking at the applications for visa extensions day after day after day. So we knew that. Our colleagues on the policy side could see as well. They got a sense of that. Um, and if you had just left the two in isolation, with policy colleagues constructing rules and regulations and legislation that was then consistently, we could see, being abused at the front line, you would have been left with a completely unhelpful solution. And the answer to it involved colleagues from both policy and operations working really collaboratively and closely together to have the operational side say both, this is the truth that we are seeing and this is why it needs to change. Policy colleagues then thinking around how maybe the rules need to be tightened up, but also to create the framework that allowed us to have the response, which was a kind of combination of us closing down the bogus colleges, of working in a completely different way operationally and figuring ourselves off. So we had some set of people dealing with the mainstream educational sector on how they could tighten up, and the rules were tightened up. And as a result of all of this, we got to a point where, having gone from 15% of all of the students coming through and applying for extensions were actually turned down because they weren't very often legitimate claims, to a position where there were almost none of those because we had worked collaboratively and together. And so where that story leaves me is, why did that one work well? And the reason it worked well was because there were a bunch of people who saw the problem in the round as both a policy and an operational issue, who decided collectively to come together and deliver it, who didn't do that thing, which I'm sure we're all slightly guilty of, as of looking at the world through the prism of where we're sitting at the moment and sort of saying something like, oh, well, you know, I know this is an issue, but I think that's actually a policy matter, so it's not my responsibility. Or for those policy colleagues to sit and say, well, actually, the policy is absolutely fine. The issue is that it's being implemented in the wrong way. Because they came together and they collaborated, the actual service that we provided to the British public was better because we had a system that had all of its integrity. So I'm a complete enthusiast for this. I truly believe that the problems that the country faces are only going to be delivered if we work in partnership and collaboration. And I really, really would emphasize that it's the collaboration very often between policy and operational colleagues thinking together about how they can resolve the problems and provide a better service that is going to work. So I will just leave you with a few thoughts around how you do that. I think, first of all, you need to understand the problems you face and ask yourself really what is going on here. If it's a problem that needs to be resolved, that you do not have all of the levers and the tools at your disposal, don't just say, oh, well, then it's not my responsibility. Look out and reach out and have conversations. But I think the last thing I would say is to really, really embrace and treat all of your colleagues as part of the solution in this, and work together, and set aside anything that is an artificial barrier from you doing that collaboration, because the boundary between what is policy and operations shouldn't be a hard barrier to us getting on and delivering the things that we need to deliver. So thank you very much. I hope those are some helpful reflections. They're based on my experience, and I look forward to seeing you all again. Bye.